Thank you so much for the invitation to say a few words here today. Ms. Mfundisi and Mr. Nkwane and all the honored guests who are here. But the most important people who are here are you, the graduates. No one else is more important than you. And I've got two messages for you today. The first one is, do what your heart tells you to do. And the second one that I will come to towards the end of my short input is never give up. You heard the short synopsis, the short summary of my life. I'm an Afrikaner boy. I was born in the old Western Transvaal, the Northwest province, from a racist Afrikaner family. I decided at the age of 16 that I hate apartheid. And I decided that I should follow what my heart tells me, that apartheid is fundamentally wrong and evil. And I started fighting it. At the age of 18, I was expelled from the old Rand Afrikaans University, which today you know as the University of Johannesburg, because I called for the release of President Nelson Mandela and for equal education, that everyone should be in that university, which wasn't the case. It was an all-white and mainly Afrikaans university. Today, I'm proud to say that wish that I had has become true. The University of Johannesburg is today a fully integrated university. So at the age of 18, I was kicked out. I was expelled. My dad was fed up with me. He had to pay back my bursaries. He kicked me out of the house. So I found myself at that age walking the streets. I slept for a couple of weeks in parks on benches. But eventually I pulled myself together. I said, no ways. I'm going to fight. I'm going to join the struggle against apartheid. And I did so. Initially, I had no job. I was a young Afrikaner student. I didn't have a support network. I went to Alexandra and I started working in an upholstery factory. And for 2 years, I worked in that upholstery factory, and I can tell you today, I can make wonderful coaches. In fact, Cyril Ramaphosa should have rented me. He wouldn't have been in trouble. The money wouldn't have fallen out of the coach. But be that as it may be, I continue to persist. I joined the African National Congress at the age of 19. And I got involved in the underground armed struggle for the ANC and for Umkhonto we Sizwe. 3 years later, and I'll be short, I don't want to be too long. 3 years later, I was arrested for that work I was doing against apartheid. I was terribly tortured at John Foster Square. As I stand here today, I've lost most of my hearing. I'm almost 100% dependent on hearing aids because of that torture. I was then sentenced in 1983 to 15 years of imprisonment for high treason. So-called high treason. I never believed that I committed high treason. I was a patriotic South African fighting for the future of my country. And then I started serving that 15-year sentence. And you know, guys, I still remember the first day when I was in that little cell there at Pretoria Maximum Security Prison. I pulled myself up and I looked through the barred windows. And on the other side of that wall, of that courtyard, was a brick wall. And I started counting the bricks. 1, 2, 3, 4. I got to 365. I said to myself, now, mate, multiply it by 15 and you figure out how long you're going to be here. But I was fortunate. As you heard from the summary of my life, I served only 9 years of that sentence, because then the negotiations between the ANC and the old apartheid regime started, and I was released. The day I got out of prison, I went immediately to the ANC's head office, which was then in central Johannesburg. And I said, look, I'm out of prison, I'm here to work. I could see they were surprised. Well, you've just been for 9 years in prison. What skills have you got? You were a very young chap when you went into prison. I was only 23. I said, don't worry, I'm prepared to learn. I'm going to work. And I worked. And within 2 years after that first day that I walked into the ANC head office, I was appointed by the National Executive Committee of the ANC to be the national spokesperson of the African National Congress and the spokesperson for President Nelson Mandela. A huge honor. So I continued to live my life in commitment. I saw many things going wrong in the ANC. I saw how there were leaders in the ANC who were more interested in their own pockets and how they could enrich themselves than the future of our people. I saw how our people's love for the African National Congress was exploited. How the fact that people believed in the ANC, and because of the liberation dividend that the ANC delivered, that they continued to vote for the ANC, although people were no longer caring for the majority of black and especially African people. And I became very unhappy. I started criticizing the ANC from inside, but I didn't want to leave. I said, this is my family. I lost my family at the age of 18. I joined the ANC. The ANC became my family. How can I leave my family? But yes, time goes on. One becomes more and more disappointed. And you start hearing that word, that phrase that I gave you at the beginning. Do what your heart tells you to do. And my heart was telling me, this is no longer the place where you should belong. This organization is not the organization that you joined at 19. These are not the ideals that you have lived and dedicated your life to. I tried very hard. I was inside the ANC fighting, battling. I'm sure some of you saw me. For days I would stand alone with posters saying what is going wrong must be put right. Saying Cyril Ramaphosa must go. I was beaten up for it. I was sworn at. I was eventually charged by the ANC. When I went to the 54th National Conference at the accreditation center, the ANC leadership threw me out. They sent police and said, throw him out. And I went home and I said, never give up. The second phrase, never give up. And then I decided, surely the organization is not a holy cow. Surely it's not about this organization. It's about my ideals, what I stood for, what I fought for. And then I resigned from the ANC. Not because I was rejecting any of those ideals with which I joined the liberation struggle in South Africa in 1979 at the age of 19. But because I wanted to live out those ideals. And that's what I'm doing now. Together with some of my fellow comrades, we started a new political party calling the African Radical Economic Transformation Alliance. If you go and read what we stand for, you will say, wow, this sounds just like the ANC of those early days, 1930s, 40s, 50s. The ANC of Oliver Tambo, the ANC of Walter Sisulu, of all the great leaders that we revere so much. And yes, it is. Because I continue to believe in those same ideals which my heart told me to follow 44 years ago. Now, I don't want to make too much of a political speech today. I want to say to you as graduates, be dedicated to what you believe in. Respect what your parents have done for you. Respect the sacrifices that your parents have made for you to be able to study. Make sure that you always honor your parents. Make sure that you honor them through doing the best that you can do in your life, following your heart, making sure that you live your life with integrity. If you follow those two phrases, that you live what your heart tells you what to do, and you never give up, in 10, 20 years from now, you will look back and you will say, wow, what a life. What a beautiful life. So I wish all of you courage. I wish all of you strength in a very difficult economic environment, where many of you are going to battle to get jobs, where employment is no longer guaranteed. And I love what you said, Master of Ceremonies. Don't just think of a job. Also think of starting your own business and creating jobs for other people, for fellow South Africans. But if you continue to commit yourself to those ideals, I've got no doubt that you will succeed. There are people like myself and others who are not just thinking of our own pockets, who are not just thinking of how we can exploit you. We've got a political program and we want to see change. Live that change. Vote for the right people, not for the exploiters, not for those who are simply interested in themselves, but for those who want to build a new country, who want to create for ourselves what this slogan says: it's all about the future. Let's build a new future. One where you, as graduates, as young people especially, and especially as young women, stand center. In this month, which is Women's Month, I must say to you, it is your lives and your future that will determine whether this country succeeds or fails. All of this is in our hands. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share this little bit of experience from my life And I wish all of you all of the very best. Take care. Thank you.